Build it and they will come. There we are. Well, listen, before I get the main part of the rally, there's a few thank yous that I need to do. First and foremost, I think a big thanks to Willie Black, despite the fact that he stole my speech. Willie must be one of the most experienced trade union and community organisers in the city. Way back to the 70s, he was organising anti-racist marches in Muirhouse. And for somebody from Muirhouse to come into the heart of Nidri, Craig Miller, and take centre stage is also very brave. But I also want to thank a couple of people from the Lothian Health branch, Lynne Williamson and Robert Foyer, whose expertise has been beyond belief and has led us to where we are today. And further to that, I want to thank 3 local councillors who, without their assistance, we would never have had the hub that's behind you here today. So thanks very much to the SNP, Labour and Green councillors that made this possible. I'll say a short bit on trade unions and communities because typical of Willie Black, he said most of it. But it is important to understand what this is about. And it's probably twofold. One, there has been a desperate need to bring trade union unity. My background in trade unionism was mainly in Royal Mail, and we'll hear from Gary Platt for the CW later. And I was amazed coming into Unison and finding out there was so many different unions organising in the NHS and in the council. And it was even more surprising to find out the battles that were going on between the unions while the employers sat back rubbing their hands. So this is about bringing unions together, creating the unity that is necessary. But further to that, as Willie pointed out, we want to unite that with the community activists. And I've seen community activity in Craig Miller over the years. We've got Paul Nolan here today, who was instrumental in the Craig Miller Festival and everything that went along with that. And as people growing up in the wider area, I happened to come through the tunnel in Bingham. They throwing stains at me. I'm away from Bingham now. But the community involvement was tremendous. So we want to reignite that and use our trade union organisational skills in conjunction with the skills that lie in this community and communities further afield. So that's what we are about. We've got a number of speakers that are going to explain the background to the different disputes that are taking place. And it heartens me, after years and years of inactivity of our movement, it heartens me to see the activity that's now taking place. Strike action that probably started 5 or 6 months ago with the RMT. And we've got leaders within the movement now that are all saying similar things. It's time for the fight back. None more so than Mick Lynch of RMT, who has taken great pleasure in probably downgrading and embarrassing all the TV presenters that have tried to denigrate RMT. Mick Lynch has been inspirational. But as I've said at many rallies, leaders don't win disputes, members win disputes. So we need the support of all members. But in terms of RMT, we've also got great leaders in Scotland. And of course the ScotRail dispute has just been settled. And I'm delighted to welcome to this stage the Regional Secretary of RMT in Scotland, Michael Hogg.
Thanks very much, Derek, and it's great to be part of the trade unions within the communities, because I'm absolutely delighted to actually associate myself with trade unions within the community, because trade unions within the communities is well overdue. Well overdue. So as far as RMTs are concerned, it's solidarity from the RMT trade union. We're here fighting for our lives. Of that there is no doubt. RMT are happy to lead. However, what we need the big battalions. We need the big battalions in this fight because we cannot win this fight on our own. Enough is enough. The working class is under attack. Let's not forget the barbarism, and I mean the barbarism of P&O workers. 800 workers were sacked by an outfit that needs taken to task. And we must not forget 800 workers thrown onto the industrial scrap heap. Condemnation of the Tory government, condemnation of the Labour Party. P&O have got away with absolute murder. Bandit capitalism on a massive scale. This obscene thuggery must not be allowed to be repeated. However, this rotten Tory government have an ideology. They have an ideology to smash the working class. We've seen what happened in 84, 85 miners' strike, where the Tories smashed the miners. And we must make sure that this never happens again. So far as the rail strike is concerned, within the railways, we have witnessed billions, and I mean billions of pounds, being given to the shareholders and the bosses. Enough is enough. And what we need is change. And let me give you a flavour of what I'm talking about. £300 million profit for companies who operate the trains. £949 million profit for companies who own the trains. £235 million profit for companies who repair the tracks. 80% of profits go to foreign-owned companies. On average, the rail companies are making £500 million profit per year. Economics of the madhouse. We need change. This is why trade unions within the communities that we need actually a start. And this start here in Craigmillar is a brilliant start. Absolutely fabulous. And let me finish on this note. And don't worry, Roz, I'm not going to swear. Let me finish on this note that Bob Crow, a previous trade union general secretary, once said, if you fight, you won't always win. But if you don't fight, you will always lose. Solidarity, friends, and victory to RMT, and victory to trade union within the community. Thank you.
If you want to start a rally, invite Mick Hogg. Comrades and brothers and sisters in the community, it's obviously a pleasure to be here, and it's great that we're bringing rallies like this into the heart of working class communities. But some of the strikes that are taking place now, of course, are by workers who were at the front line during the pandemic. People like the postal workers, like the rail workers, like the health workers, were all there working during lockdown. And who would have thought just a couple of years on, when we were given plaudits, the government were throwing plaudits at those workers, who would have thought that while they were giving plaudits to our school workers, our teachers who kept our kids in education throughout the pandemic, who would have thought that those governments could now not see the worth that they were saying at the time? So it's with great delight that I welcome to the stage Claire Robertson from the Educational Institute of Scotland. Claire.
Hello everyone, thanks so much. How'd you follow that? I'll try my best. So I'm Claire, I'm a Sport for Learning teacher in Western Hales. I'm part of the EIS and a part of the Edinburgh Trade Union Council. We're here to celebrate today the opening of this venue to bring trade unions into the heart of our communities. This venture, this facility will signpost young and new members to the right unions, and I believe will be a beacon of hope in these dark times. We're all living through a particularly difficult period of history where working people don't have enough money to fuel their homes, feed their families, and working people are paying the price for years of Tory austerity. And here in Scotland we have a government which seems content to follow in the Tories' shadow by failing to support those in most need while allowing the rich to get richer, our utilities to remain in private hands, our NHS to be privatised by stealth, and working people to pay the price by being expected to work for wages far below the rate of inflation and the rising cost of living. No one can afford not to be in a union now. We see our comrades from across society standing together to say enough is enough. We will not work for substandard terms and conditions with threats to our health and safety, and for pay which comes nowhere near enough to live on. My union, the EIS, has recently taken industrial action for the first time in nearly 40 years. We withdrew our labour from our classrooms the week past Thursday and closed every school on mainland Scotland. We will hold additional national strike days on the 10th and 11th of January, and then we'll begin 16 days of continuous disruption across Scotland. Be clear, the EIS will strike for as long as we need to until COSLA and the Scottish Government listen to our demands and pay us fairly for the work we do. We delivered our pay claim in good faith in February. In March we received the derisory offer of 3%. How could we accept that? 6 months later, after attending all the meetings with COSLA, hoping that they would be serious, they offered us 5%. It was rejected through a consultative ballot, 71% of the membership responding, with 96% voting for industrial action. Then, on the eve of our first strike day in nearly 40 years, we received a long-awaited revised pay offer from COSLA. Teachers held their breath. What would it be? Could we avert the strike that none of us wanted to take? COSLA must offer something that we could consider. But no. 10 months after our pay claim, COSLA said the offer was for an undifferentiated 5% increase to annual salary. COSLA proved they don't even understand what undifferentiated means. The unanimous view of the EIS was that this offer was even less acceptable than the previous one, as it represented the same 5% for the majority of members, a lower increase for many members, and even if it at its maximum impact for probationary teachers of 6.85%, a real term pay cut. We rejected this in the most robust terms. Members would not be consulted on this derisory, divisive and insulting offer from COSLA and the Scottish Government, as members had already rejected this 5% offer through the statutory ballot process in September by an overwhelming majority. Teachers' wages have stagnated and reduced since Thatcher took on the EIS in the 80s. We feel that a 10% increase of our pay would go some ways to restoring that reduction of our pay. We are no longer an attractive proposition to graduates and fall far behind our teaching colleagues across the world in terms of pay and condition of service. Our children should be receiving the best education system in the world, and that doesn't come cheap. We're standing strong and want everyone to know that we are supporting our striking colleagues of NASUWT and SSTA as they strike for better pay on Wednesday and Thursday. And we stand in solidarity and united with our colleagues in CWU, GMB and UCU as they continue to stand up to their employers and say, enough is enough! Solidarity from the EIS.
Absolutely brilliant. Before I get any further, I should point out, and I apologise, Lynne, I was to say at the start, inside the hub right now is a local community artist who's doing portraits. So anybody who wants a portrait done, you can feel free to nip in at any time, and it's absolutely brilliant, by the way. Our next speaker, I should have mentioned earlier, I happened to say that when I was talking about the old Craig Miller Nidri, that ex-councillor Paul Nolan is here. And I just happened to say that ex-councillor David Brown here as well, who was also part of that community at that time. Obviously there's a number of strikes taking place, but there's a number of activities have taken place in this area over the past, and the resurgence of the Craig Miller Festival itself. And speaking at that meeting, as is done at all events in this area, is the local MP, Tommy Sheppard, and I now invite Tommy to come forward and say a few words.
Thanks, Derek. My name is Tommy Sheppard. I'm the local Member of Parliament for this area, have been for nearly 8 years, and I'm one of the SNP group at Westminster. I'm also, I think it's worth pointing out, on the committee of the SNP Trade Union Group, so I'm particularly delighted to be here today and to lend my support to this initiative. I think it's important when we look around an area like this and we see that a lot of people are living here trying very hard to make ends meet and not managing it. They're usually working in poorly paid, insecure jobs. They don't have a trade union, they don't have an annual pay round, and they sometimes wonder what is the relevance of what's going on with the strikes in Royal Mail, in the education service, and elsewhere in our society. And I think we need to be clear when we speak and reach out to those people that actually, if the RMT win their campaign, if the CWU win, if the EIS win, it's not just a victory for their members. It takes forward the position of the working class in general, it rebalances the power in society, and it makes it all the more likely that we can drive up the conditions and improve the pay that many of these non-unionised workers are actually getting. And that connection between organised trade unions and the unorganised working class, it is so important to build and bridge that gap. And that's why this initiative is so important and why it will provide a focus. Because when people look from these houses and they wonder, how can I get involved in a trade union? They only have to walk 50 metres and go through that door. And that is a level of proximity which we've never had before, and one which I think is quite vital. Now, you'll see around here there's been a lot of development, right? An awful lot of development, even in the years that I've been here. You're standing in an area that, if you look at the master plan, was meant to be a pub. So actually, it's this, and the pub, the reason for the pub was to provide some sort of social community space where people could come together with all these many thousands of new houses that have been built. I hope this building here will be better than a pub in terms of providing a place where local people can come together and get information. And I pledge to try and work with the committee that's running this facility, to expand it, to make sure that actually it's not just the structure, it's quite funky, but it's not just the structure in the building, it's what happens inside and all around it. It's how it can be a beacon for what happens here. Starting, I hope, with the Craig Miller Festival this summer, where this can be the hub of what is going on in this community. And as one of the things, my contribution to that, I hold regular advice surgeries in this area where I try and help individual people. Most MPs do that in their communities. So I'm going to be approaching the community to see if I can relocate my advice surgery from the library to this building here, so that when people come, they know where they're coming to. So full solidarity. I hope this is the start of something absolutely brilliant. Look forward to working with it in the years to come.
Thanks very much, Tommy. The disputes that I've mentioned and you've been hearing about are wide and varied. But one union that's probably got a finger in all of those camps is Unite the Union. So I'm delighted to introduce, if I get this right, the Deputy Regional Secretary, Mary Alexander from Unite the Union.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here. It's a fantastic initiative and something that is really fundamental if we're going to make the fight back of our lives, because I think we really need that now. All around us we can see how people are struggling in work, in the communities, not being able to feed their kids, food banks are running out, and the energy, the cost of living and the energy crisis, and people struggling to not able to put their heating on because of the cost of the bills, and that's only going to get worse. And I could go on forever about the jokers in the UK government, one after the other, who have just ripped the, I won't swear, Roz, you know what, the PISS out of people, and it's time that we fight back against that. And I think we are seeing that in, Derek mentioned, Unite having their finger in every pie. Well, we've done 140 disputes over the last year. 140, that is massive. And what's great is to see that knitting together that Roz talked about, of the other unions and the community coming together to support and provide that solidarity. I seen that very clearly with the local authority strike and Edinburgh, bin men and the recycling workers, who were fantastic, and they got such support from the community, who turned up at the city chambers, turned up at the depots and said, you're absolutely right, carry on with what you're doing. And our fellow RMT, CWU and other unions all came up, Unison, to support us, and that's what we need to do more of, and we are doing more of. And the community part is a fundamental part of the jigsaw for that. So, Willie said that, they hope to have these hubs everywhere, well, not everywhere, but, in key parts of Edinburgh, and we need to make unions relevant to the community. And that won't be, it won't just happen today or tomorrow. It will take time, but that is essential for us if we are going to win against these corporate profiteers. Look at the Unite's done a great report on corporate profiteering, which I would urge you to look at, and it just shows you how much inequality has gone, has increased over the last few years. Absolutely disgusting. Anybody looking at, look at the big four energy companies, 9.5 billion combined profits. They increased their profits by 84% since 2019. And meanwhile, people are starving in Great Britain, not. So, this initiative is just so important. And you know, I'll look forward. You know, we'll see people on the picket lines because the strikes aren't going to stop. We're building that momentum. I know Roz is doing a lot of work going around, pulling people together, showing that solidarity and support. And we need to keep that. You know, we need to keep that moving and going. I'd like to just say one other thing, which is about the National Care Service, if I may. Now, this is one of the, you know, what Nicola Sturgeon described as the biggest shake-up since the NHS came into being in 1945. What a load of rubbish. And people need to get with that project. Look at the detail, because all it is opening up that sector to further privatisation. And that is a huge fight we've got on our hands with that. We saw in the last couple of weeks with the evidence to the Parliamentary Committee, all the scrutiny, the Finance Committee, looking at, you know, the problems with that bill. Co-design is what the Scottish Government are saying they're doing with it. We're designing it with the people. What a load of crap, honestly. It's not co-design. And they're getting away with murder. They're not putting any more money into that. And workers are still in the same position as they were when the Fair Work Convention done a report into the state of social care. Then workers were on their knees. Now they're flat out, they cannot cope anymore, and nothing is being done about it through this framework. So I'll stop there, and I wish the Hub all the best. I'll certainly be coming down and supporting those hubs across, you know, across our patch in Edinburgh, and solidarity and all the best. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Mary. And we will have a speaker very shortly to go further, a bit further on the supposed national care service. The next speaker is going to speak on an issue close to my heart because it's Gary Clark from the CWU. And I said earlier that my background was in Royal Mail. And it broke my heart to see that great institution being privatised a number of years ago. And of course, when it was privatised, we all knew what was coming. And we now see the asset strippers in there, the money men ready to further sell off Royal Mail. Fortunately for us, the Communication Workers Union aren't standing for that and have now embarked on a course of industrial action that many of us have joined the picket lines to support. So it's with great pleasure that I invite from the Scotland No. 2 branch of the CWU, Gary Clark.
Yay!
Cheers, Derek. I'm proud to stand here as a branch secretary of 3,000 striking postal workers from Fife, Edinburgh, Lowlands and the Borders. We're all proud to be a representative of 120,000 striking postal workers who through 12-day strike action, and we'll more strike action to come in the coming weeks leading up to Christmas. As Derek will tell you, I've worked with Derek over the years. First time in history we've took strike action at Christmas. 500 years of Royal Mail, never been on strike at Christmas. And Royal Mail are putting in place that posties are stealing Christmas. No, we're not stealing Christmas. Royal Mail CEO and the board are stealing Christmas. I think it's quite apt as we hear as the launch of this hub, a trade unions community. Because any trade union is part of the community as postal workers. 32 million households a day, 6 days a week, every single path, every single street, you'll see a postal worker there 6 days a week. No other trade union can say that. And on that, what are Royal Mail trying to do? In fact, I'll go back, I think it goes back to privatisation 9 years ago. 9 years ago it was privatised by Moyer Green, who was the CEO at the time, and by the Liberal Democrats that led that, by the way. Let's remember that. It was the Liberal Democrats. I also remember what happened before that. It was Labour that tried to privatise raw milk prior to that as well, so we should not forget that. But in those 9 years, money's been stolen. £1.9 billion has been given direct and dividends to shareholders. Think of that. £1.9 billion. How many houses could that have built? How many schools could that have built? How many people who are hungry and homeless could have fed and clothed? £1.9 billion. But instead of that £1.9 billion, where's it went? In the hands of the capitalists. I will pay that. It is a crisis that capitalism has led us to this. And also goes on, the pandemic. Remember what I said, we're part of the community. We deliver 32 million households at 6 days a week. Who do you think delivered the test kits during the pandemic? Who do you think delivered the actual letters to people for their rejection during the pandemic? It was my members. My members delivered that. Because we are part of the community. Now what Raw Mail want to do, they want to siphon off the 32 million letters that get delivered a day, households a day, and do parcels. And what they want to do with parcels, they want to replace us with owner drivers. So they want to get us with well-paid jobs, replace it with self-employed people. Self-employed people like the person who worked for DPT last week, or 2 weeks ago back now, who was doing 14-hour days, 7 days a week, and found dead at his steering wheel. That is what we are talking about. They want to replace them with good terms and conditions, union rights, union recognition, with self-employed people who are going to die. So the city's been fought before, we're fighting for our livelihoods, and to a large degree, we're also fighting for our lives. That is the difference we're talking about here.
Yes.
Also, what they want to do is make 25,000 redundant. No in terms agreed by the CW, my national agreement, which gives us up to 2 years pay, and only after we consult and negotiate with them. But they want to make it after 9 months pay is all they want to give us. At the same time, when manager got made redundant this year, they walked away with 6-figure sums in their back pocket. During the pandemic, Royal Mail made £1.7 billion in profit. £1.7 million in profit. And now they're saying they're losing £1 million a day. Now that takes clever accountancies to come away with these figures. This year, they posted, in May this year, £758 million profit in May this year. But now they're losing £1 million a day. Well, that's gross mismanagement by the senior manager, nothing to do with the workers. The management who were giving to the shareholders and to the directors £600 million on this year, when they knew there's an economic crisis, when they knew the pandemic and the parcel was coming, that is the type of people we want to do. These are the people who should pay for it. So what we're not only calling for is what you can do as a community, because we're part of the community. You need to support us. We're in the fight of life. We'll be going on strike again on the 9th, on the 11th, on the 14th, on the 15th, on the 24th, and on Christmas Eve, we'll be going on strike. We're in the part of the community that comes to support of us, because we don't get strike pay. Our members are actually struggling, financially struggling. We don't see any of my members not be able to give their kid a Christmas present this year. We are now calling on the trade union and the community movement to help support us and help sustain our strike action. So I make the call here today. This is a launch pad, an actual support network for CW members, for the community to help support us, for the trade unions to help support us, so we will not be starved back at work. And right now, our members are all putting in food banks in every single deal because the members are struggling to feed themselves. That is wrong. When you've got people who like the Rico Bats, the Simon Thompson, walk away with millions of pounds, and they want us to starve. We're not going to stand back and do that. We're together, we're a movement, so we fight together. Injury to one, injury to all. A victory to one, a victory to all. And I'll use the word, I will be called the militant. I stand proudly as the militant. And I'll use the word of former Labour MP, Kerry Fields. The final point, what is a militant? A militant is a more that go off your knees, start fighting. So let's start fighting.
Thanks very much, Gary. And talking to the CWU, let's not forget the scandal of Horizon and post office counters that have caused death and destruction for many sub-postmasters. Our next speaker, and Mary referred to the National Care Service. Our next speaker is well versed to speak on this issue, so I'm going to invite Carmen Simon. Carmen.
Buenos días a todos, compañeros y compañeras. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to speak today in this event. I hope all the best for this community hub. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to strengthen the link between the trade unions and the community. I was asked to speak about social care. I think it won't come as a surprise to anybody here that social care is in crisis and the situation is worsening by the day. In Edinburgh, the crisis is such that 7,500 hours of care that is being assessed as needed is not provided for. In Edinburgh, there is currently between 200 and 250 beds that are occupied in hospitals for people that are ready to be discharged, but they cannot come back safely to the community because there is not a care package in place for them. I will give you as well a very specific example of how that impacts on the workforce. I'm a Unite member, and I was in touch yesterday by one of our workers that is being asked to work 41-hour shift in Christmas. So that means starting on an early shift, back shift, a sleepover, and again repeat that the following day. 41-hour shift. This approach to provision of care, it has not only implication in the quality of care that we are providing to the more vulnerable in our society, it also has serious implications in health and safety for the people receiving care and for the people that are providing this essential service. This is disgraceful. This has to stop. I would like to invite you all to the public meeting that the Edinburgh TUIC has organized for the 6th of December. They will take place in the city chambers. You are all welcome to be there at 6 for tea and coffee and networking, and the meeting with the staff at 6:30. We have to make sure that our voices are heard. We have to send a clear message to politicians and decision makers that we are sick of austerity and that we want people to receive the social care that they need and deserve, and not the social care they say they can afford. That we want terms and conditions for social care workers, and a decent terms and conditions for social care workers, and that we want care to be provided in-house and not by greedy profiteers. Next year, the Edinburgh Council, will launch a consultation on the future of 4 publicly owned care homes and the provision of social care in the city. I will encourage everybody to participate in this consultation in coordination with trade unions and social activists. Last year, trade unions and the community came together to stop the closure of these very 4 public-owned care homes. That was a great example of the power that we have when we organize and speak with one voice. So let's keep the work. All the best for this hub. Thank you. Cheers. Gracias. I speak on the National Care Service. I don't have time.
Thanks very much, Carmen. The next speaker is the head honcho of the Scottish Trade Union Congress. And you know, I was thinking yesterday, I haven't been involved in this movement for 50 years and more. Over the years, I've heard activists decrying the STUC. We never see anybody, we never hear from the STUC, we never see them. Anyone that's been on picket lines over the last 6 months can certainly not say that, because on every picket line there's been STUC representation, and people that have been calling for a general strike, of the general strike that we always call for. It was summed up at a meeting recently by Roz's assistant Dave Moxham when he said, there is no general strike, we're just striking generally. And that, of course, is what's happening. So I'm delighted to invite an active General Secretary of the STUC, Roz Foyer, to address the rally.
Thank you very much, Derek, and thank you very much to the whole group for inviting me here today. I really am proud to be here to help open this centre, and I'm proud to stand with striking workers right across Scotland at this time. Our message to any group of workers who are fighting back is this: your fight is our fight, your struggle is our struggle, and this trade union movement in Scotland will support you every single step of the way in your struggle. Because we know that things have gone too far, we know there is a tax on our whole class, and we know that we need to start organising ordinary workers and working class people so that we're able to mount the fight back that needs to happen if we are going to build an economy that really works for working people. Because right now our economy is broken. That's why we've got a cost of living crisis. It's not the war in Ukraine, it's not the pandemic, it's not even Brexit. It's caused by decades of the rich and powerful asset stripping our class of our rights, our dignity, and our fair share of the wealth that we create in this economy. Now that isn't going to change unless we come together and unless we start fighting back. Our governments have failed us, the bosses have failed us. The only people that are going to change things is us, and that is going to take blood, sweat and tears. It's not just about joining a union, it's about using the union machinery, it's about campaigning, it's about talking to your colleagues, it's about being brave and taking action and really fighting back. So I salute every single person that's willing to do that. It's not easy to take time off and to take strike action when you're not getting paid. It's not easy to put your family into that position. And that's why we have to support every single worker every step of the way as a movement, and the STUC will do all we can to do that. So we have a UK government that is utterly attacking us at the moment. They don't care about the fact that being an ordinary working person has become unsustainable. They don't care about the fact that everything has gone up. They don't care about the fact that the wealth gap is widening. All they care about is continuing to feed their political masters in the city. It was telling that in the recent budget, for all the talk about being more responsible and how we all have to pay, and the language of austerity coming back in, the only people that get a tax cut in that budget were the bankers. So they're still feeding the bosses in the city and making sure that they don't lose out in any way. We have subsidised and we have paid and bailed out the energy companies to the tune of billions of pounds already, and it looks like we're going to continue to do that. We've privatised all of our essential services over recent decades. That has to stop. We need to stand up, we need to say enough is enough. It's not just about taxing them, it's about nationalising them and making sure they stop sucking the profits out of our economy. So yes, let's renationalise our transport services. Our trains are already there, but they need proper investment. Our buses need to come back into proper community control, just like we've done with Lothian buses. That should be a standard for right across the whole of Scotland. We also need to make sure that we're bringing back our energy services into public control. We need to make sure that all of these different areas, and post is part of that as well, I absolutely agree with that. We need to make sure all of these areas are seen as the essential public services that they should be, and that is what the STUC is campaigning for. So really, we're a government who's against our whole class. The only thing we can do with the Tories is campaign, scream and shout and get out in the streets to make sure that every single Tory is kicked out of power as soon as possible. And for the Scottish Government, our message is this: you must do better. If you claim to be a left of centre government, if you claim to be on our side, then show us that you're on our side. Use the powers you've got right now. Tax the rich, tax wealth. The 2 richest families in Scotland have got more wealth than the poorest 20% of our population. That is wrong and it has to change. This government already has the powers to make a difference, and we're calling on them to use those powers and use them now. If the First Minister's assumption that this is a humanitarian emergency is right, then let's see you do something about it. So we've produced a People's Plan for Action to tell the government what we want right now from them. It's calling on them to properly invest in our transport services and take them back into public control. It's calling on them to give free school meals to all our kids. It's calling on them to give us a benefit system that properly targets poverty in our communities. It's calling on them to use income tax, wealth tax, their council tax right now to redistribute wealth in our economy. It's calling on them to look at all of these different areas, set up municipal energy companies, make sure that our green retrofitting of our homes is done by publicly owned workers, not cowboys and grants for the rich. We want to see local authority-led development of our housing to make it fit for purpose so that we can have low energy bills and see municipal energy companies in our communities. All of these things are possible right now. And next week, we're going to be announcing taxation report from the STUC that shows how all of this can be paid for from within existing powers. We have the ability to put in a whole range of different taxation measures. Some now, some that we could use this winter and this budget coming up, and some that will take a few years to put in place, but let's get started on it. There are billions of pounds that we could distribute within our economy, but none of this is going to happen if we don't come together and call for it. So as I said earlier, our fight back has started. Our class is on the march. Our union members are fighting back in their workplaces. Our community people are fighting back in the communities. We've joined up with the Poverty Alliance, with anti-cuts campaigns, with a whole range of groups across Scotland, and we're going to be holding a demo outside the Scottish Parliament next Thursday at 11 o'clock to demand a budget that works for Scotland's workers. I have a job for you all. Tell everyone you know, tell your friends, tell your families, tell the people in your communities to get down to the Scottish Parliament, because when we make our demands with one voice, they can't dare to ignore us, and it's time for us to shout and scream for change. Thank you very much. Solidarity.
Thanks very much for that, Roz. And I should have pointed out, actually, Mick Hogg mentioned in opening the disaster of P&O, and there was demos took place down at Cairn Ryan, and when we were down, the cops were trying to move us on to, and it was Roz that decided to sit in front of one of the vehicles and started the protest. That's leadership. That's the leadership that we want to see for the STUC. I'm now going to invite to the stage the closing speech, and I mentioned earlier Lynne Williamson, that has been at the forefront and kept Willie and me in order throughout this campaign, the run up to the opening. So Lynne.
I'm not really prepared anything because I was asked at the last minute, would you mind speaking? But the thing that I wanted to say and what I've been thinking a lot, I remember one day Derek was talking about this project. Thank you. I work for Derek in my day job. And I remember I'm talking about trade unions in the communities. And I said, oh, that sounds interesting. I think I'd like to get involved in that. And you know, when you say something like that and you think, oh God, what have I got myself involved in? Because the last 6 months have been absolutely amazing, but they've been absolutely knackering. I've been blown away by everybody that's been involved in the project. We have set this project up at minimum cost because we have had literally everybody and their dog doing things for free. Right, hold it up, Lynne. You can see I didn't do karaoke or that very much. We've produced everything, as I say, literally the cost to opening the centre have been kept to a minimum because we have involved everybody that we could to do things for us, for free. I do want to shout out to our colleague who did the website whilst on holiday in Gran Canaria and came to all our meetings doing that. And that is someone who's one of our stewards. This hub has been built on passion, right? Pure and utter passion. But I have to say, passion is not going to keep it going indefinitely. And I'm going to say it, we need money and we need contributions. So I'm making this appeal to everybody. You can donate individually, but I'm particularly appealing to unions that haven't maybe already made monthly or quarterly donations or one-off donations to please seriously consider doing so. This is probably one of the best initiatives that has happened for many, many, many years. But we cannot survive on that passion alone, although it's got us really, really far so far. So please do consider making regular donations and please consider getting involved in the hub as well. You can volunteer, you can bring suggestions to us. We're open, it's a new project and we're willing to listen to whatever anybody's got to say about how we develop it. But most importantly, we need to listen to the community to see how we're going to develop this project. We did think about doing a sideline and painting and decorating, but trade unions in the communities, painters and decorators, just to make a bit extra money. But after the experience of painting the hub, I don't think we're going to do that. So we do need those regular donations coming in. I've been asked, so again, thank you everybody for coming. There's a buffet, I call it the chalet, in the chalet. And there's the gentleman local artist, so please do go and get your portrait painted. It's free and a nice momentum from today as well. And I've been asked if we can get people in front with banners so that we can get some pictures before we wrap up and start having something to eat and maybe get a bit warmed up with a hot drink as well, because it is getting a bit cold. So thanks again for coming today, and please don't be strangers and get involved.